Shows that revolve around the medical world are plentiful in the Western world, and although we have a few in India too, they fail to come anywhere close to the reality. So when we saw the trailer of Human on Disney Plus Hotstar, we were hoping that it sensitively approaches the issue at hand while ensuring that the message goes through. This medico-socio series promised to deliver a complex narrative and thrill. Were the makers successful in doing this? Let's find out.
Shut up and sit down.
Direction and writing. There are at least 4 different intertwining worlds within Bhopal where the story is based, each having their separate narratives that converge at the right time to create fabulous plot twists that you would least expect. Vipul Shah and Singh are able to keep the screenplay quick because of the several angles from which the story is approached. A downside to creating such a complex world is the multiplicity of characters that it comes with, and as a viewer, you would find yourself trying to cope up with the story in the first few episodes. What the series does brilliantly though is to simplify an unknown concept for the masses and then builds the entire premise around it. The writing is beautiful in that it assumes a certain level of intelligence from the audience, and not everything is left for the dialogues to spoon feed. Certain scenes have subtle clues which work terrifically in the show's favor. Dialogues are intelligently written. Probably one of our favorites is when Atul Kumar says, "Center से थोड़ा दूर जाके देखो, सब कुछ साफ दिखेगा तुम्हें." Medical articulation is well researched and woven in, but never getting too overwhelming. But at the same time, the writers try to bring in several other socio-political agendas, such as poverty, the Bhopal gas tragedy, the LGBTQ movement, open marriage, and human trafficking, which do not add much to the story's conclusion, although well intended from a message perspective, seems overly preachy at certain points, and it would have served the script better to stick to the core idea tightly. But for a series that primarily addresses the subjects of ethics and morality, the LGBTQ angle especially seems forced. We are happy that more and more makers are trying to normalize and represent this cause through their stories. But whereas a series like Arya makes it a part of the narrative, Human treats the subject separately as an agenda. Similarly, there's unnecessary eyesore gore in places and not the Anurag Kashyap kind. The CGI of autopsies, surgeries, etc. seems forced and adds nothing to the narrative. The real locations and set design showing the parallel but contrasting worlds of the rich and the poor add to the general tone the series takes. We felt the costumes were too awkward for the scenes the characters were in, especially those for the doctors. This is a nagging issue throughout the show that keeps bothering you while you try to focus on the more grave issues. Another key aspect is the character development. Writers take their time to give each of the lead characters a backstory, which allows the viewers to empathize with their actions. We love how for a change the characters are not black and white, but grey. But why the writers brought such a complex story to an abrupt end, with quick solutions to issues that loomed for several episodes, is a question that will linger for you after the watch. At places, the treatment suddenly turns so ultra-filmy that the more layered and well-built plots are suddenly shrouded. But overall, we have to say that a strong writing team has endured a truly Sherlockian intricacy to the plot. And we had no trouble staying invested, except for the development of a couple of side stories. But the writers could have oiled the moving parts a tad better, so that the drama didn't end up seeming exaggerated. Except for a few uncalled for tonal switches and lack of a tight edit, direction and writing are between sweet and sour.
Cinematography. Shrisha Ray's frames capture the sorrow of the slums and the regalia of the riches equally well, while drone shots, action sequences, and portraits are captured in all their magnificence. Where the story lags in creating belief, the frames capture your imagination and pull you back in. Cinematography is absolutely masterful. A sweet. Music. The background score by the sound department never gets too overwhelming and blends in perfectly with the narrative. At certain points, you wouldn't even notice if you weren't listening closely. But where the scenes fall back on the acting rather than dialogues for engagement, you can be sure that the background score will provide with ample support. Music is most definitely sweet. The acting. Mukesh Chhabra's casting must have been one daunting task. Let's start with the supporting cast. Ram Kapoor as a business manager and Gauri's husband is effective and believable. Aditya Srivastav tries to shrug off his aura as Abhijit from CID as he plays the corrupt head of a pharmaceutical company. Indraneil Sengupta continues to impress after what we saw in Aranyak and is impactful in the limited screen time he gets. Atul Kumar, Sushil Pandey and Mohan Agashe all leave their mark every chance that they get. And a special mention to Vishal Jethwa. He pours his heart out as Mangu, although we wish his delivery was consistent until the end. End of the day, this show is carried on the shoulders of two actors, Kirti Kulhari as Dr. Saira Sabharwal and Shefali Shah as Dr. Gauri Nath. Kirti continues to show us her potential in glimpses throughout the 10 episodes, but she is inconsistent and at times tries too hard and ends up leaving the viewer feeling awkward. But as a lead, we must say this is probably one of her most memorable performances. Kudos Kirti. Let there be no doubt though that this show is all about Dr. Gauri Nath, a borderline psychotic, ambitious, self-righteous and self-centered head of the hospital with a traumatic past and a confusing present, who will let nothing and nobody stop her from reaching her objective. And if there is one takeaway from this review, it is that the show ends up being more about this character than human trials. Shefali Shah brings Gauri to life with such ease that it becomes difficult to separate the character from the actor. And yes, the eventual character arc somewhere kills what she has built with such difficulty, but this performance is definitely a testimony to her mettle. The only word that comes to mind with the performance? Evil. Overall, acting is sweet. The bottom line. Watch it for solid performances by the entire cast, from the more complex to the tiniest of appearances. A socio-political drama that manages to engage you in an unconventional narrative. A Robin Cook style message that needs to be heard, especially given the circumstances of this pandemic. Don't watch it if you require comic relief when presented with a serious topic. Human stays dark in its entirety. If unnecessary gore puts you off. And if you don't wish to be lectured on several social topics within the same series. Delighted with your viewership. This is Viewers Cut signing off. Until next time.